All right, strap in everyone because we're going deep on that Apple Vision Pro update. I know you've all been waiting for. You guys sent us a ton of articles and research. Looks like the April 2025 Vision OS 2.4 update is going to really shake things up for this special computing headset.
Yeah, it seems like Apple is taking spatial computing to a whole other level.
Exactly. And before we get ahead of ourselves, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. When we talk about spatial computing, what does that actually mean for someone using this headset?
Well, I guess think of it this way. Spatial computing sort of blends the digital and the physical worlds together, you know? It's about interacting with digital content in a way that feels natural in your own space.
So less like staring at a screen and more like having holograms right there in your living
Yes,
room.
exactly. And that's where this update comes in. Apple's introducing this whole bunch of AI features. They're calling it Apple Intelligence.
And from what I've been reading, it seems like this Apple Intelligence is designed to actually learn from how you use the Vision Pro, almost like you have a super smart assistant who knows what you need before you even ask.
That's a great way to think about it. And one of the big things Apple is focusing on with this update is privacy. They're making sure that all your data is processed right there on the device itself, like whenever possible.
So no need to worry about your personal info being sent off to some giant server farm.
Right. And for those times when it can't be processed on the device, they're using this thing called private cloud compute.
Okay, gotta be honest, that one's a little over my head. Can you break private cloud compute down for me? Like, how is that different from, the cloud services we use every day?
Sure. Think of it as your own personal cloud, just for you, not shared with anyone, not even Apple.
Yeah.
Your data is encrypted, processed in a way that makes sure it stays private.
Okay, that makes sense. So like having your own mini data center totally under your control.
Exactly. So Apple Intelligence, with that big focus on privacy, that's like the backbone of this update. But what's really going to blow people away are the features that come along with it.
Yeah, these articles you sent are packed with new features. Where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with one that I think you'll appreciate, the writing tools.
Oh, yeah, I saw those. Tell me everything.
Just imagine. You're writing an email, like a really important one, maybe a proposal for a new project. You just can't seem to find the right words, nail that tone.
Oh, you're telling me writer's block is the worst.
Well, now with the new writing tools, you can get Apple Intelligence to help you actually write the perfect message. It can rewrite, it can summarize, adjust the tone, even generate content for you.
Wait, so it's basically like having a professional editor built right into the Vision Pro.
Pretty much. And it's not just for emails. These writing tools work across the whole system, so you can use them in any app where you're working with text.
No way. I can already see how much time and stress that would save. But wait, I think I read something about ChatGPT being involved. I thought that was like just a chatbot thing.
You're right. People usually think of ChatGPT as just a chatbot, but it's actually this super powerful language model. It's made by OpenAI. Basically, it's been trained on this huge amount of text data.
So it's basically read every book and article and website on the internet.
Well, maybe not everything, but almost. And by going through all that data, ChatGPT's learned to understand and create text that sounds like a human wrote it.
Wow, that's kind of freaky, but also awesome. So Apple is using this ChatGPT thing to power its new writing tools.
Exactly. ChatGPT is behind a lot of the really cool stuff you'll see in this update. And it's not just limited to writing tools. But before we get to that, are you ready to unleash your inner artist?
Always. What do they have for us?
Get this image playground. It lets you create unique images. You can use different themes, add your own descriptions, even generate pictures based on photos of your friends and family.
So I could create a picture of, say, my dog wearing a spacesuit on Mars.
Exactly. Image Playground is all about giving you the tools to be creative, try out new things, express yourself. And speaking of expressing yourself,
Oh, yeah. Genmojis, right. I was curious what you thought about that.
I think it's a really smart way to make the digital world feel more personal. You're not stuck with those same old boring emojis everyone uses. You can create your own, just describe what you want.
Okay, so if I wanted an emoji of a unicorn doing a backflip while eating a taco, I could just tell the Vision Pro to make that happen.
Yep. The AI takes your description and creates a one-of-a-kind emoji just for you.
Okay, that's hilarious. I have to try that later. But all this creativity stuff is great, but I also want to know, how's this update going to help me actually get more work done?
Oh, don't worry. Apple hasn't forgotten about productivity at all. Let's talk Smart Reply.
Ah, yes, those quick reply suggestions in messages and mail. Anything new there?
This update takes it to a whole new level. Now, Smart Reply uses Apple Intelligence to create responses that are actually relevant to the conversation. more personalized, too.
So instead of just suggesting yes or no, it might actually write out a whole sentence based on what the message is about.
Exactly. And it's learning your style as you use it, so over time, the suggestions get even better, more like what you would actually say.
Seriously impressive. This Apple Intelligence thing is working hard behind the scenes to make our lives easier.
You got it. And it doesn't stop there. Ready for a truly next-level feature. Create a memory movie.
Oh, yeah. This one really caught my eye. I'm a bit of a sentimental person, so being able to turn my photos and videos into like these immersive 3D movies, that really appeals to me.
But it's not just a slideshow. Create a memory movie actually uses Apple Intelligence to go through your photos and videos, find those key moments, even put together storylines.
Wait, so it's like having a personal filmmaker who can edit my memories into a blockbuster movie.
You can say that. And it adds soundtracks, can even turn 2D photos and videos into 3D by using depth information.
Hold on, how does it do that? Create 3D from regular photos? I thought you needed special cameras for that.
Yeah, so those traditional 3D movies, they use this thing called stereoscopy, which basically mimics how our two eyes perceive depth. So they use two cameras to capture slightly different views of the same thing.
Right, right. But how does the Vision Pro do it with just one photo?
This is where the Apple Intelligence comes in. It can look at your photos and videos, pull out depth information based on what's in the image, and create a 3D version, all without needing two cameras.
So even my old vacation photos can become immersive 3D experiences. No way.
Exactly. It shows you how Apple's not just organizing your memories, but actually creating experiences out of them.
Create a memory movie is going to be huge. I can feel it. But honestly, there's one feature I'm even more excited about: natural language search.
I can see why. No more endlessly scrolling through photo albums trying to find that one specific picture.
You get it. It's always like, I know I have a photo of that sunset from our Greece trip, but where is it?
Now, you just asked your Vision Pro, show me the sunset picture from Greece, and it actually understands what you mean.
Seriously, a lifesaver. No more wasting time digging through thousands of photos.
It really shows how AI can make our lives easier. A task that used to take forever, now it's super simple. But let's move on to some of the other new apps and features in this update. I'm super intrigued by the Spatial Gallery. What's that all about?
Spatial gallery sounds fancy.
Think of it like this curated gallery, but with spatial photos, videos, panoramas, all from different artists and creators, and you get to explore it all right there in your Vision Pro.
So basically, it's like having a museum exhibit right in my living room.
Exactly. And it's not just static images. Imagine you're exploring a 360-degree panorama of the Amazon rainforest, or getting a behind-the-scenes look at your favorite movie.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. What kind of content can we expect in this gallery? Anything specific?
Well, at launch, they're going to have amazing nature shots from famous photographers, behind-the-scenes peeks at Apple originals like Disclaimer and Severance, even special experiences from brands like Cirque du Soleil and Red Bull.
Wow, that sounds like a completely new way to experience content. Immersive entertainment taken to another level.
And it's not just about watching passively. Apple is also giving people more control over their whole Vision Pro experience with the Apple Vision Pro app for iPhone.
Wait, so I can manage my Vision Pro right from my phone? Tell me everything.
You got it. Download apps, find new spatial content, get tips, even manage your device settings, all from your iPhone.
That's so convenient. I can see how that would be super helpful, especially for finding new stuff and keeping everything organized. Speaking of convenience, what about sharing the Vision Pro with others? Any updates there?
Yeah, actually, they've really improved the guest mode. Guests can now request access from the headset itself, and you can approve and manage it all right from your iPhone.
So no more having to go through that whole complicated setup every time someone wants to try it out.
Exactly. And here's a cool thing. Guests can have their hand and eye data saved for 30 days now, so they don't have to go through the recalibration every single time.
That's a great update. Makes the whole experience way more user-friendly. Speaking of user-friendly, let's talk about the update's impact on people who are already Big Mac users.
Ah, you're talking about the Mac Virtual Display Mode. I've seen some people online talking about improvements there.
Talking about is an understatement. Apple's totally changed how the Vision Pro works with your Mac.
Okay, you have my attention. What do they do?
Get ready for it. Ultra-wide resolution support, finally.
Whoa, game changer. So many Mac users have been waiting for that. But what kind of resolutions are we talking about here?
You're not ready for this. The new max resolution is 10,240 by 2,880 pixels.
Seriously, that's insane. It's like having multiple monitors all merged into one giant immersive display.
A productivity dream. Imagine being a video editor or graphic designer, having your entire timeline or workspace laid out in front of you with incredible detail.
It would be incredible for professionals who rely on visual workflows. But what about people who don't need that much space?
They've got that covered too. They've also got a more practical wide display setting at 6,720 by 280 pixels.
That's still a ton of space, and probably way easier on the system resources. But besides the resolution, what else is special about this new Mac display mode?
This is where it gets really cool. They've made it so your Mac's display actually extends right into your spatial environment.
So it's not just like a window floating in front of you.
Not at all. It feels like it's part of your surroundings. You're not limited to a physical screen anymore. It's part of your reality.
I love that. Really captures the essence of spatial computing, that merging of physical and digital.
Hmm.
I bet it makes working on a Mac with the Vision Pro feel so much more natural and intuitive.
Exactly. And it opens up so many possibilities for how we interact with our Macs. But for now, let's switch gears a bit, talk about something a little less technical, user reactions.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what people are saying about all this. What have you found in your research?
You sent over some great sources, Reddit threads, YouTube comments, even some chatter from tech forums.
That should give us a pretty good idea of what people are thinking and feeling. Let's start with Reddit, shall we?
All right. The Visionpro subreddit has been blowing up since the update announcement. Overall, the feeling seems to be super positive.
That's awesome. It sounds like Apple's doing something right, and people are excited about what this tech could do.
Right. It's not just hype. There's genuine excitement for what the Vision Pro can do and where it could go. And it's not just techies. It's people from all walks of life.
That's a great sign. This tech is starting to reach a wider audience. Any comments that really stand out to you?
Well, there's one that made me laugh. A
Okay.
user named Vision Pro Fanatic wrote, "I was totally skeptical about this AI stuff at first, but after trying out the writing tools, I'm a believer. It's like having a superpower for my emails."
Uh-huh. Love that. It's a perfect example of how these features can have a real impact on people's daily lives, even in unexpected ways. Shows that AI isn't just this abstract concept, it's something that can actually make us better.
Absolutely. Speaking of productivity, a user named McAddict wrote, "Thank goodness they finally added ultra-wide resolution support. My Mac setup is finally complete."
Glad to see Apple's listening to its users. Adding that ultra-wide support not only makes things better for users, but shows that they're serious about making the Vision Pro a real tool for professionals.
It's the small things that can make a big difference. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows on Reddit, though. There are a few users who think this whole Apple Intelligence thing is still a bit limited.
Ah, yeah, I've seen some of those comments too. What are they hoping for?
Some people want deeper integration with Siri and other Apple services. They want to be able to control their entire Apple world using their voice and hand gestures right there in the Vision Pro.
That's a fair point. Makes sense to want everything to work together seamlessly. I'm curious to see if Apple addresses this in future updates.
I have a feeling they will. Apple likes to constantly improve things, and I'm sure they're already working on the next generation of AI-powered features. But let's move on from Reddit and see what YouTube's saying.
Sounds good. YouTube's always a little more, shall we say, unpredictable.
Oh yeah, you get everything from tech reviewers gushing over the new features to people who think the Vision Pro is just a gimmick.
That's bound to happen with any new tech,
Mm.
especially one as big and potentially world-changing as spatial computing. It's going to take a while for people to really understand what it means and how it could fit into their lives.
Right. And some people will always resist change, especially when it comes to something as fundamental as how we interact with technology. I think it's important to listen to the people who are genuinely trying to make sense of this, both the good and the bad.
Absolutely. So, were there any YouTube comments that really resonated with you?
Yeah, there was this one from a tech reviewer, Tech Guru 2025, that I thought was pretty insightful. He said, "The Vision Pro's still a little rough around the edges, but this update is a big step in the right direction. Apple Intelligence is the real deal, and I can't wait to see what developers do with it."
That's a great perspective, recognizing both the progress and the challenges. Highlights that the Vision Pro is still evolving, but it has so much potential.
For sure, we need those balanced voices, especially with all the hype surrounding something new. But of course, it wouldn't be YouTube without some negativity. What are the naysayers saying?
I'm always interested in hearing different viewpoints. What are their main arguments against the Vision Pro?
Well, some people just don't see the point of spatial computing. They say it's just a fancy way of doing things we already do with our phones and laptops. They wonder if that extra immersion is really worth the cost and the potential downsides.
That's a valid criticism, to a point. It's up to Apple and developers to show why spatial computing is unique and valuable. They have to create experiences that are truly different, not just copies of what we already have.
You're right. It's about creating those, whoa, I've never seen anything like that before moments. That's what will get everyone on board. Speaking of getting everyone on board, let's check out those tech forums.
Yes, the tech forums where the hardcore techies hang out. What's their take on the update?
Those forums are a treasure trove of insights, especially for those of us who love to geek out on the technical details. And one of the biggest topics right now is the potential for third-party app development.
That's where things get really exciting. The true power of a platform like this is its ability to grow this whole ecosystem of apps and experiences. Apple can't do it alone. They need developers creating innovative and exciting things to draw people in.
Exactly. And it sounds like developers are already overflowing with ideas. They're brainstorming all kinds of ways to use Apple Intelligence and create spatial computing experiences we've never seen before.
Amazing. I can't wait to see what kind of apps come out in the coming months and years. This could be the start of a whole new era for app development, one that's not just stuck on a tiny phone screen.
It's like the wild west of spatial computing, and everyone's just starting to explore. But for now, let's step back for a second and think about what all of this means for us, for individuals. We've talked a lot about the tech and the potential, but I'm wondering,
Yes. What are you thinking?
how do you see spatial computing fitting into your life? What are your hopes and maybe even your fears for this technology?
That's a great question, and I think it's one we all need to ask ourselves. It's easy to get caught up in the hype, but it's crucial to think about how it affects us personally. How will it change the way we work, learn, connect with each other? And even bigger, how will it change how we understand reality itself?
Those are some pretty deep questions, definitely worth thinking about as we explore this whole evolving world of spatial computing. But for now, I think we need a little break to collect our thoughts. We've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive, and there's so much more to discuss.
Agreed. A pause will help us process all this and get ready for the next part of our spatial computing adventure. Don't go anywhere, though, because when we come back, we'll be going even deeper into the possibilities of this transformative technology. Welcome back to our deep dive into spatial computing and all the latest with Apple's Visionpro update. Before we took a pause, we were talking about the amazing potential this tech has and how it could change our lives.
It's definitely mind-blowing to think about, right? Like how it could change how we work, how we experience entertainment, all of that. But I'm also curious about the other side of the coin.
You mean the potential downsides? Yeah, that's a really important part of any deep dive. We can't just focus on all the shiny new features. We got to look at the challenges, the risks too.
Exactly. So what are people concerned about with spatial computing? What are the things that keep you up at night thinking about all this?
Well, one of the biggest concerns, and it's a valid one, is privacy. These devices are collecting so much data about us, eye movements, hand gestures, even like the layout of our homes. It's super important for companies like Apple to be transparent about how they're using that data and give users control over their own privacy.
Absolutely. We have to make sure privacy is a fundamental right in this spatial computing world, just like it is in the real world. But beyond privacy, what other potential problems should we be thinking about?
Another big one is addiction and social isolation. I mean, as these spatial computing experiences become more immersive, more engaging, it's easy to imagine people spending less time actually interacting with the real world. We got to find a balance, make sure this tech makes our lives better, not replaces them.
I can totally see that becoming an issue, especially for younger people who are already so glued to their devices. It's like we're constantly teetering on this edge.
It's definitely a valid concern. We have to be mindful of how we use this tech, make sure it's not replacing real experiences and real human connection. And then there's the more practical stuff like accessibility and affordability.
Right, that's a huge one. Spatial computing devices are still really expensive, which means not everyone can even try them. We don't want to create this digital divide where only the wealthy have access to this transformative tech.
You're so right. It's really important to make sure that spatial computing is inclusive, that it's available to people of all backgrounds and abilities. Everyone should benefit, not just the ones who can afford the latest gadgets. But there's another aspect that I think often gets overlooked,
What's that?
the ethical side of things. As spatial computing gets more advanced, we're going to have to face some really big questions. How do we make sure it's used responsibly? How do we prevent it from being used for harm? And maybe the biggest question, how do we even define the line between what's real and what's virtual?
Whoa, those are some seriously deep questions. It feels like we're stepping into the unknown here. Are we even ready for this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like we're making up the rules as we go along. But I think it's so important that we start having these conversations now before this technology becomes so widespread that we can't change course. We need to make sure we're using it for good, not just for profit or entertainment.
I agree completely. So it seems like there's a lot to be excited about with spatial computing, but also some really serious things we need to address.
It's definitely complex, like with any new technology, but I think the key is to approach it with both optimism and caution. We need to be aware of the risks while also being open to the incredible opportunities it offers.
For sure. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little more concrete. We've talked a lot about the potential, but I'm curious.
Definitely.
What's on your mind? What are the practical implications in all this? Like right now, what are some real-world examples of spatial computing actually being used out there?
I love that question. It's easy to get caught up in all the futuristic stuff, but it's good to see how this tech is already making a difference today. And believe me, there are some amazing examples out there. Did you know that spatial computing is actually being used in healthcare to save lives?
Whoa, really? Tell me more.
Surgeons are using these augmented reality headsets, which are a type of spatial computing, to see patient anatomy in 3D right there during surgery. It means they can be more precise, less invasive, and ultimately get better results for their patients.
That's incredible. Like they have X-ray vision, but even better because they can see everything in 3 dimensions.
Yeah, it's really changing the game for medicine. And it's not just surgery. Spatial computing is also being used to train doctors. Medical students can practice procedures in a safe virtual environment without risking harm to real patients.
It's like a flight simulator, but for doctors. That's so cool.
Exactly. And it's not just about learning technical skills. Spatial computing can also create these immersive therapy experiences for people with PTSD, anxiety, and other conditions. Imagine facing your fears in a virtual world with a therapist guiding you.
Wow, that's such a powerful application. It could be so helpful for people struggling with trauma or phobias.
And it goes way beyond healthcare. We're seeing some really cool uses in manufacturing, engineering, architecture, all kinds of fields. For example, some manufacturing companies are creating what they call digital twins of their factories.
Digital twins, what are those?
Basically, it's a virtual copy of a physical object or place.
Mhm.
In the case of a factory, engineers can use it to optimize workflows, spot potential problems, even train workers in a virtual version before they ever step foot in the real factory.
Whoa, that's amazing. It's like having a virtual sandbox where you can test things out without any real-world consequences.
Exactly. And it's not just about efficiency. Spatial computing can also make factories safer by identifying hazards and preventing accidents before they happen.
Like a virtual safety inspector, always on duty.
You got it. And that's just the beginning. In engineering, spatial computing is helping to design and visualize these super complex structures in 3D. Engineers can collaborate better, spot design flaws, even test virtual prototypes before building anything in the real world.
It's like having a 3D blueprint you can actually walk through. That must help engineers catch problems early on.
Absolutely. They can see things from every angle and create better designs. And then there's architecture.
Yeah, I've seen those videos where architects use VR to walk through buildings before they're even built.
That's spatial computing in action. It lets architects show off their designs in a way that's much more exciting and understandable than just looking at blueprints. Clients can actually walk through the space, see what it feels like.
It's like taking a tour of a building that doesn't even exist yet. That's got to be such a powerful tool for architects.
And it's not just about looks. They can use spatial computing to test layouts, materials, lighting, all to create buildings that are more efficient, sustainable, and ultimately better to live in. But let's bring it back to something you're passionate about: education. I think spatial computing has the power to completely change how we teach and learn.
Oh, absolutely. I've been dreaming of this for years. Imagine being able to take your students on a virtual field trip to ancient Rome, or exploring the human body from the inside out.
I know, right? Those are just a few examples of how spatial computing can make learning so much more immersive and engaging. It's about going beyond textbooks and lectures, creating experiences that really capture the imagination.
And it's not just about delivering information, it can change how we test students, too.
Imagine tests that go beyond multiple choice questions and actually see how students can use what they've learned in real-life situations. We could have virtual labs, simulations, interactive challenges that really test their understanding.
That's what real learning is all about. Being able to apply knowledge, solve problems, make decisions, and spatial computing can help make those kinds of learning experiences happen. But with all this amazing potential, there's this big question that keeps coming up.
Yeah, I think we both know what it is, the price tag.
Exactly. The Apple Vision Pro, as incredible as it is, it's still a luxury for most people. So the big question is, will spatial computing ever really become mainstream if the price stays so high?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like this chicken and egg problem. The tech needs to be more widely used to become more affordable, but it needs to be more affordable for people to use it more widely.
So how do we break out of that cycle? How do we make spatial computing accessible to everyone?
I think it's going to take a few things happening at once. First, the technology itself needs to keep improving, becoming more powerful, more efficient, cheaper to make. Like with any new tech, the first versions are always expensive, but as it develops, the price comes down.
So we just have to be patient and wait for the price to drop.
Patience is definitely important, but it's not just about that. We also need to see more examples of how spatial computing can actually be useful in the real world. The more people see how it can improve their lives, solve problems, create cool experiences, the more likely they are to actually buy it.
So it's about showing people that spatial computing isn't just a cool gadget, it's something that can make a real difference in their lives.
Exactly. We have to go beyond that initial wow factor and demonstrate how spatial computing can solve real problems and create real benefits. But there's another piece to this puzzle:
What's that?
competition. Right now, Apple's kind of the main player in spatial computing. But as other companies start getting involved, we'll see more innovation and hopefully better prices. Competition is good for progress.
So the more companies making spatial computing devices, the better it is for consumers.
For sure. The more companies investing in this technology, the faster it'll improve and the more affordable it'll become. But there's one last thing we haven't talked about:
Okay, I'm all ears. What is it?
mindset. Right now, a lot of people see spatial computing as this novelty, something futuristic that's not really ready for everyday use. We need to change that.
I get it. It's seen as something for gamers or tech enthusiasts, not something normal people would use in their daily lives.
Exactly. But we have to start thinking about spatial computing not as a luxury, but as a necessity, as a tool that can help us learn, work, and connect in new and better ways.
So it's not just about the tech itself, it's about how we view it, how we integrate it into our lives. It's about seeing it as an extension of the real world, not a replacement for it.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's about using spatial computing to enrich our experiences and connect with the world around us in new ways. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We've talked a lot about the big picture, but I'm curious to hear your personal thoughts on all of this.
That's a great question. To be honest, it's a lot to take in. I'm excited about the potential, especially in education. I can see it changing how we teach and learn, making it more engaging, more personalized, more effective. But I also have those same concerns about privacy, accessibility, and people becoming isolated.
Those are definitely valid concerns and ones we need to keep in mind as this tech keeps changing. But I think the important thing to remember is that technology is just a tool. It's up to us to decide how we use it. We can use spatial computing to build a better future, or we can let it control us and create more division. It's our choice.
That's a powerful thought. It's not about the tech, it's about our choices, our values. But I think we've covered a lot for now. My brain's starting to feel a little full from all this spatial computing talk.
I hear you. Let's take another quick break to recharge, and then we'll come back for the final part of our journey. When we return, we'll explore what you can do right now to get ready for this exciting, maybe even a little scary, spatial computing future.
All right, we're back for the last part of our deep dive into the Apple Vision Pro update and the future of spatial computing. Before we took that break, we were getting into those potential downsides. You know, the privacy stuff, people becoming isolated, those big ethical questions we're still trying to figure out.
Yeah, and we left off on a really important point. Technology is a tool, right? It's not good or bad on its own. It's all about how we decide to use it. So, knowing everything we've talked about, I'm wondering,
Yeah.
what can our listeners do, like today, to prepare for this whole spatial computing future? It can feel overwhelming, like this big wave is about to crash over us.
Totally. It's easy to get caught up in all the futuristic predictions and feel like we're already behind. But honestly, I think the most important thing is to just start exploring. Dip your toes in, even if you're not ready to jump in head first.
I love that. And
Or-
it doesn't have to be this big commitment or anything. Just start researching different devices, watch some videos, read articles, whatever makes you curious. The more you learn, the better you'll understand this whole thing.
Exactly. It's like learning a new language, you know? You don't have to be fluent right away. Just start with the basics. And once you've got a handle on the basics, you can start thinking about how it could fit into your own life.
That's so important. It's about finding that sweet spot where your passions and the potential of spatial computing meet.
Yeah.
Are you a teacher who wants to find new ways to engage your students? a musician who wants to create immersive sound experiences, an athlete who wants to improve your performance. The possibilities are literally endless.
Okay, so first explore, then find your spatial niche, as you put it. What's next?
Experiment. Don't be afraid to get hands-on and try stuff out. There are already tons of spatial computing apps and experiences out there, with more being created all the time.
It's the perfect time to be an early adopter, you know? You can get in on the ground floor and actually help shape this technology. And you know
Oh.
what's always helped me understand new things? Talking about them with other people, bouncing ideas around, seeing different perspectives.
Oh, absolutely. Sharing is key. And that's actually my next tip. Talk to people about your experiences and what you're learning. Talk to your friends, colleagues, family members. The more we share our knowledge and excitement, the faster this whole thing will grow.
Yeah, it's like building a community, right? A group of people who are excited about spatial computing and working together to figure out what it can do. But I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to one thing:
With that.
imagination. Don't be afraid to dream big. Spatial computing is still so new, which means we're just starting to understand what it can do. What kind of world do you want to create with this tech? What problems do you want to solve? What experiences do you want to have?
I love that. We need to change our thinking from what can spatial computing do to what do we want it to do.
Yeah.
That's how we get real innovation. So to sum it all up, explore, find your niche, experiment, share what you learn, and most importantly, dream big.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Spatial computing is going to take time to reach its full potential, but it's going to be an amazing ride. And we'll be here every step of the way to help you navigate it all.
Absolutely. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay connected. This conversation is just getting started, and we can't wait to see where it takes us.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the Apple Vision Pro update and the future of spatial computing. We hope you learned some cool stuff today and that you're as excited as we are about the possibilities of all this.
Until next time, keep those headsets charged and those imaginations going. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the world of tech and culture.